Hi, welcome to Matt Talk, a video podcast for the friends and family of Coming First United Methodist Church, from me, Pastor Matt. Today is Monday, July the 17th, and I'm delighted to have with me on this episode of Matt Talk, Nate Bramel, who is our new Director of Student Ministries. And Nate, welcome.
Thank you.
We're so glad to have you here at Coming First United Methodist Church on staff, and we're excited to have you here at Matt Talk today.
I am excited to be here, at the church in general, and very excited to be at Matt Talk, so thank you.
Great. Well, I want to give you a chance to get to know Nate a little better, just like we did Gia last week, and so have a few questions for you, Nate, to help us get to know you better. So tell us about your childhood and your growing up, and what that was like, your family and so forth, where you were from.
Yeah, so I was born in Atlanta, Georgia, and I grew up in Roswell. So I lived in the same house my whole life in Roswell, Georgia, went to Centennial High School, go Knights. I grew up, I grew up with my family, and I have one sister who's 2 years younger than me, and just kind of hung out in Roswell, and most of our family is from up north. So a lot of my family is in Illinois, Wisconsin area, so we would always, our immediate family would hang out and stuff, but then every summer and every winter just go up to Illinois.
All right. Fantastic. So tell me a little bit about your educational journey. Went to high school, as you said, at Centennial High. What happened after that?
Yeah, so I went to, for college, went to UGA, go Dogs. Yep. And when I was there, I was really involved, especially in high school. I loved writing for the school newspaper. Wow. And so I went for a degree in journalism and also a degree in international affairs.
Fantastic.
And I really was like, I'm going to work at a newspaper. And then I worked as an editor for the UGA school newspaper and realized I didn't like working for newspapers. And kind of along that time too, a big part of kind of my, I feel like, education and career path was working at Camp Glisson as a counselor. And that was kind of where I started to potentially hear a call into ministry, but did a lot of that stuff too. And so after I graduated from UGA, I spent a year working for the Wesley Foundation as a ministry intern there, and continued to discern a potential call into ministry, and worked full-time for a year at Camp Glisson as a program intern, which was really fun. And from there on, discerned a call to go back to school at Candler School of Theology for my Master's of Divinity.
Wow. So tell us a little bit more about your faith journey that got you to there. You grew up in a church family. Tell us about your faith journey.
Yeah. So I grew up going to church at Mount Pisgah United Methodist Church with my family. And I always like to say, I knew who God was, but more like I knew God as a famous person, kind of like Chipper Jones or something. And Camp Glisson, like I mentioned before, when I was younger, the first place where I really felt like I had a personal relationship with God was at Camp Glisson. I was a very all over the place, I would say, just kind of a weird middle school kid. Most of us are, but I was an especially just goofy kid and tried really hard to fit in and all those kind of things. And I have such vivid memories in 6th and 7th grade at camp. It was the first time I felt like I fit in and was accepted for exactly who I was. And I really think that's where my own faith started to become a personal relationship with God, a personal relationship with Jesus. And I was really invested in my own youth group back home. And so I'd say throughout high school, I had a pretty strong faith and was very fortunate, very blessed that my family was really supportive of that as well. And I would say it especially took off when I got to be a camp counselor and kind of show campers that same love I felt I received when I was a younger camper. That was really when I think I started to realize, I could see myself working in ministry one day.
Yeah. And what about your call to ministry? How was that? Was it like the Paul getting thrown off on the ground with a blinding experience, or was it kind of a nudge? Or tell us more about just that call to ministry.
I'm thankful it was not a blinded by the light situation, but I remember specifically, so at that time when I worked at Glisson, if you've ever been to the Glisson Chapel before, there was open windows, or there was all the counselors would usually sit on a windowsill, and you'd overlook most of your campers were sitting on pews kind of in the building. And I remember one morning, it was just the first time it had hit me that like being a camp counselor was the first job that I ever liked doing, that I could see myself continuing to do. And part of that's because being a counselor is kind of like being a kid to an extent. But I feel like that was kind of a nudge. That was the first time. And I remember going back again as a counselor and then in returning years as leadership for the summer staff. And that was a lot of, I think, starting to discern a call and thinking this might be more than just something I enjoy doing in the summers. And then I was really thankful back at school, the Wesley Foundation almost served as a chance to really discern more my own giftings as a child of God and also what it looks like to maybe work in ministry. So I'd say it was nudges, and every time I would try to take a step, it kind of felt like God was guiding me along the path because Wesley opened up, and then the opportunity to explore youth and camp ministry at Glisson opened up, and then the next step was Candler.
Yeah. And so during Candler, you worked in other churches, right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Tell us about your experience there, or some of your past experiences.
Yeah, so I worked at a Methodist church in Conyers called Crossroads United Methodist Church. And it's through this really cool program that Candler has called the Teaching Parish program.
Right.
So it allows you to work. I work 20 hours a week alongside school, but to really just put a lot of practical application to some of the more like theological things we were learning. And I got to be a youth pastor. And it was an interesting experience because when I was a youth pastor, there wasn't really a youth group. There was about 4 or 5 kids, and there was just some bad luck of a few kids moving away right when I got there and things like that. So the youth group, for about a year, I worked with the youth group, and then my role shifted to being that of more of an assistant pastor. So I got a lot of like really cool experience getting to preach, getting to lead Sunday school classes for all ages. I did a confirmation class, but also did a Sunday school class for the parent group, which was around like probably average age of 55. So it was really fun being able to work with all ages and stuff.
Yeah. So how was your experience at Candler as you were getting your Master's of Divinity? Was that a good experience, eye-opening?
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about that.
It was definitely an interesting experience. I was, we were the COVID class, so my first semester was August of 2020.
Oh, wow.
So it was definitely interesting. I had just moved to Decatur with a few of my friends, but I would, all classes just in my room on Zoom. So that was an interesting experience within itself. But Candler was really eye-opening. I think I still thought I could see myself long-term doing ministry, but I didn't know what that looked like. But I knew I'd felt a call to just be able to study a lot more. Specifically, I was really interested in studying Scripture. And I remember within 20 minutes of my first Old Testament class, I was like, I wish I would have known this my whole life. Like I was like, this isn't just something like a biblical scholar knows. Like anyone could have read the first chapter of this book. So some of those things I really enjoyed, and the reason I loved working at a church alongside it though was I learned a lot of these maybe theological topics or themes or big things, but I loved being able to kind of explain it or synthesize it in a way that anyone can understand. Because I know I felt like growing up there are certain things I wish I would have learned, and so that is kind of even, and my hope and my passion for working with youth and students is to be able to take some of these things I learned even at Candler and show it to them in a way that isn't a college textbook, but is something a little bit more understandable.
Yeah. So when you were talking about family a while ago, eventually you met someone and something happened. Tell us about that.
Yeah. So as happens a lot of people at Camp Glisson love when there's a successful camp relationship. And so I met my wife, Lara. We were actually counselors together, like in the second week of the summer in 2016. Oh, wow. And, you know, as camp goes on, there's always camp relationships. So I remember starting to be like, oh, this person, Lara, is pretty cool. And then we both went to UGA. So when we went back in the fall, that was when we first started to date. And we dated for, I think, 5 years and got married in 2021. So in November 2021, we got married.
Still kind of, I guess, just coming out of the COVID thing, or...
Yeah,
a little bit.
Yeah, and we were very fortunate. I know there was the bump at one point, so we were very fortunate where our wedding was able to be like kind of uninterrupted by any of the variants or stuff like that. Yeah. But yeah, it was a really cool time with that, and we've been married for just over a year and a half, and it's been like just the best experience so far. It's been very good.
So going through seminary, getting married, enduring COVID, all those at one time.
Yeah, it was one of those, because again, I was very fortunate to have been graduated and be done with writing papers for the present time a few months ago, but it's crazy to look back and think within that time, like I was like, oh gosh, I got engaged and married in this time. Like so many different things had happened. And
tell us a little bit about Lara and her profession.
Yeah, so Lara is also went to UGA, and her undergraduate degree was in special education. And then she got her master's at Georgia State in school counseling. And so she was a school counselor for 3rd through 5th grade at Cooper Elementary, which is in Gwinnett County. And this year, she will be starting at South Forsyth Middle School as the 6th grade school counselor.
All right, fantastic. Well, we're glad to have both of you here with us, and that's super.
Yeah.
So what are some hobbies and love that you have when you're not doing youth ministry and all?
I mean, one of my main, I love any type of game, so definitely sports. So I have been watching like a crazy amount of Braves baseball the last couple of months because it has been a very fun time for that. But Braves, Georgia football. I also really enjoy Premier League, so soccer and things like that as well. But I love watching sports, going to sports, and playing them as well. And then I would definitely say I'm a really competitive person, like even in rock, paper, scissors and stuff. Like I love playing any kind of game. And so I also really enjoy playing games and those kind of things. And then I'd say another hobby too is running. Like I really enjoy running. That's kind of a good way where I like clear my mind and all that kind of stuff.
Okay. So how often do you get to go run?
It definitely depends on motivation factor. I like to try to do 3 or 4 times a week. So
okay.
Well, I'm excited to be here and get into a routine. So hopefully I can kind of get that going.
Yeah, exactly. Sure. So anything else that the people should know about Nate Bramel as you come to minister among us and with us and all?
Yeah, I think my favorite part, I love just in ministry, I think the role that a church plays, and I love relationships. I love relationship building. I am definitely driven and motivated by just meeting new people and getting to know people and just spending time together. So if people don't know me yet or hope to, like, it's as easy as just saying hey or hello. I'd love to, whether it be getting meals with people or people just coming by the office and stuff. I'm really looking forward to that. And I'm really, especially for the youth group, I just hope, and I'm really so fortunate to inherit such a strong group with Ben and everything they have going on right now. But I'm really excited to just continue this relational place that is just safe for every single person to be at, and everyone can feel a part of the family.
Yeah. Well, we do have a great youth group, and they have some great parents, and we're excited about all of our students, and we're excited about having you here as our new Director of Student Ministries. And thank you for your time today, and we look forward to getting to know you better and to having you work among us and with us, and all of us being in ministry together. So
yeah.
Well, we welcome Nate Bramel to our staff and to our church, and I hope that you'll reach out to Nate and get to know him. You don't have to be a youth, and you don't have to have youth. Anybody and everybody, we're all part of the church together. So get to know Nate and welcome him to Coming First United Methodist Church and make his time here among us one that is just memorable with good and joyful things. And so, well, until next time, I hope and pray that the peace of Christ will be with you, and we'll see you on the next Matt Talk.